Fantastic. So this is kind of the main event, right? Our product keynote. We're really excited about the work that our product team has been doing. You heard Rick talk about our strategy yesterday. So today's session is just a little bit of a deeper dive into what that means in terms of product development and how it impacts you. And so here to kick things off, I'd like to welcome our Senior Director of Product and Corporate Marketing, John CARIONE. Have fun.
Good morning, and welcome to day 3 at Empower. I hope everybody had a great first day yesterday. I had an awesome day yesterday. It was inspiring to see folks collaborating, learning, and sharing their ideas. And it's clear this community is very special. It's clear that you guys really love QuickBase. Speaking of folks who love QuickBase, yesterday DAVIN had everyone stand up where it had been their 3rd Empower in a row. So I just wanted to pause for a moment to recognize someone and her team who I know for sure has been to the last 3 Empower events. And that's because she and her team have designed, managed, and run all 3 of them. So please join me in giving a big round of applause for Beth Highland and Allison Hunt. If they're in the back, you guys can wave. So I'm John CARIONE. I'm the head of product and corporate marketing at QuickBase. And we're really glad that you guys attended and came back. I'm very fortunate to work with that awesome Empower team that put this event on today. And we know it's a big time investment being out of the office, so we really wanted to thank you again. But I'm confident it'll pay off with your investment this week in the long run, helping you improve the performance of your company, but also improving your career. So thank you. At prior Empowers, you asked us to help you understand how companies were getting great value, some of our best companies getting great value out of QuickBase. So over the past year, we collected a list of ideas from our community, from you. And we hope it inspires you to find a better way to work in your business. Speaking of lists, is anybody a David Letterman's fan? A few folks in the audience. I'm a big David Letterman fan. He's retired now. He's got a big gray beard. But Dave always had a top 10 list to start his show. So I was thinking about doing that. But this is Empower. We're QuickBase. We're all about efficiencies. So why would I do something in 10 steps when we can do it in 5? So we've got our inaugural QuickBase top 5 list. And this morning's category, ladies and gentlemen, the top 5 ways successful companies use QuickBase. Number 5, they use it to aggregate insights across systems. So Norwegian Cruise Lines manages ships, really big ships. And they've been managing these ships like a company. So they have lots of data in siloed systems, core transactional systems like dining reservation systems, guest check-in systems, even point-of-sale systems for food service. And these systems were pretty good about reporting out data in a particular silo, but they didn't work for operational managers back on land who were responsible for inventory and restocking it, or marketing managers that need to isolate and figure out a campaign and understand the performance of that campaign on the ship. And that required aggregating data across these systems. So instead, information was just captured in spreadsheets and text documents and delivered to teams weeks after the voyage was over. And that was an issue. So with QuickBase, they created a data collection engine. And they were able to break down these silos of information you see here. And when they did, awesome new insights emerged in their business. Inventory managers on land could start to anticipate exactly when to restock linens and tablecloths for the dining room. Marketing managers who might have been testing a new craft beer campaign on a ship could understand if they should expand that or shut it down instantly. And they were able to do this in real time to make these adjustments for the very next voyage rather than waiting a month and having 3 ships pass. And many of our customers are thinking about and talk about this as aha moments in their business, and it's really powerful. So number 4, meet high demand for everyday apps. We've got a lot of customers doing this as well. So Ascension Health, they're in the healthcare business, but they're also a business at the end of the day. And they're in the business of care, and that's really important. As a business, they just have incredibly high demand for applications across their entire organization. In fact, they have over 4,000 QuickBase apps today, believe it or not. They have apps like a patient appointment scheduler, apps for tracking products like test tubes and surgical gloves. And they have nurse training and nurse tuition reimbursement apps and a whole host of others. And to meet this high demand, they have hundreds of app builders in the business, building up to 40 apps every single month. And since these apps don't contain sensitive information or personal health information, they're able to partner with the business so the business can manage and procure these applications on their own with the right level of governance. And the product team will talk more about that this afternoon. And so Ascension uses QuickBase to meet this high demand for everyday apps along the spectrum, starting with business critical, moving down to more opportunistic or administrative apps. These apps are still really urgent for the business. They have to get done. You heard the ones I mentioned. But IT hasn't been set up for success in a centralized model for this volume of requests. So a self-service approach in the business has actually helped Ascension free up IT folks so they can focus on more complex, multi-year critical ERP applications, or even highly regulated electronic health records. In my own job, helping the team run EMPOWER this week, we created over 12 applications just in the last year alone for registration, for the sessions you're attending this week, even for the really cool purple swag we're giving you guys out today and tomorrow. Number 3, improve legacy system usability. So Metso, we heard from them yesterday, they're in industrial equipment manufacturing, the oil and gas and mining industry. They have a lot of older transactional systems like supply chain and product data management and ERP systems. And these are good for some users, but they weren't good for ops managers on the shop floor who are responsible for tracking orders and tracking inventory and making sure that engineering change requests were happening on time and accurate. So instead of using these systems, which are unusable, important information about high priority orders for their customers were just getting buried in emails and voicemails. And this resulted in very senior operations folks, highly paid folks, walking around the shop floor with clipboards, taking engineering change approvals and requests. Not very efficient. And so there's this huge opportunity cost with these legacy systems today. They're hard to use, they slow down your business, and it's harder to stay competitive against your competition. And those millennials working in your organization and looking to make a big mark, they might just get frustrated and leave. So with QuickBase, Metso eliminated this sort of data chaos of all these Post-it notes and spreadsheets and emails, and they built connections back to QuickBase as sort of a control center, a center of operations to help them change with their daily changing customer requirements and move their business forward. And so now their teams collaborate better. They can track orders more effectively, and it drives the agility of their business. And we're helping many customers do just this to extend usability to lots of these different transactional systems of record. So number 2, fill platform gaps fast. So CCI is a provider in the network solution space. Their challenge was they had a bunch of new projects spinning up, but specifically for their Salesforce implementation. And project managers needed to manage revenue forecasts. They wanted to manage customer feedback outside of Salesforce. And while it was actually technically feasible for them to build all of these apps in Salesforce, it was going to be too costly. It was just going to take too much time. And they were going to have to find a harder to find pro developer resource that had a specific skill set called Apex. So it really wasn't sustainable. And so CCI had this large backlog of unserviced requests, whether they're new apps or customizations to existing apps. And IT just couldn't get to it, or they couldn't provide all that continuous customization needed. So they decided to replicate the data into QuickBase using QuickBase Sync. And the project setup time went from weeks down to days. And this great new partnership emerged between the IT data services team who helped connect QuickBase back to Salesforce and the QuickBase business builders, who they called QuickBase Ninjas. I thought that was pretty cool. To self-partnership and partner to service all these additional unserviced requests. So we have many customers that are doing just this today, not just in Salesforce, but across other cloud systems, across over on-premise systems. And it's a great partnership with IT. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the #1 way successful companies use QuickBase is to build a base for organizational agility. And Riverbed is in the tech space. They provide improved application performance across these wide area networks. And they started with just a contracts management app in their PMO organization. It quickly spread to the revenue accounting team and financial operations to help generate their monthly general ledger reports. Previously, they were creating hard copies every month of these thick paper binders and handing them around the office. Finance was able to also connect with the information security team to start to provide visibility and faster compliance processes around that monthly close process. And finally, it spread to customer support for their IT help desk application. Ultimately, it resulted in 47 apps where data and processes are automated between multiple departments. Huge value to the organization. And by now, you've heard many times how we've split out the quick and from the base in our brand. We take that really seriously. And so just like Riverbed, you can start in one department, but the more connections and automations and visibility you uncover, the value of the QuickBase platform grows. And we heard yesterday that QuickBase customers that build more apps, that have more builders, they become more profitable, they're more competitive, they grow faster, and ultimately, these are the companies that are winning. So I'd really hope this has inspired you this morning to find better ways to work, but we also need to start to inspire and find others. So look for the shop floor manager who is carrying around that clipboard, and look for that marketing manager having trouble trying to isolate the performance of a particular campaign. And look for that financial controller that is struggling to close their books every month. These are your future QuickBase ninjas. So thanks for your time. Now I'm really excited to bring out the product team to talk to you about all the awesome enhancements we have planned for the next year and beyond. So please join me in welcoming our head of engineering, Frank TINO.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. As John said, my name is Frank TINO, and I run the product development organization for QuickBase. And even though I've been with QuickBase for almost 4 years now, some of you may still not know me. Part of the reason for that is this actually is my first time up on the big stage at EMPOWER. I think I'm going to like it. The other reason you may not know me is because my team and I have been squirreled away in the QuickBase engine room working on some really cool stuff. But it's time for me to come out, get some fresh air, get a little sun on my face, and share with you the really exciting things we've been working on. But before I get to that, unfortunately, I have a legal matter I need to discuss with you. When we were part of Intuit, we separated a little over a year ago, we had to stand up a lot of our own functions. We had to build a human resources department and a finance department, IT, security department, and we had to hire a general counsel. We conducted a nationwide search to find our new general counsel, and I'm pleased to say we found our man. Some of you may know this gentleman, Attorney Saul Goodman. Also goes by the name of Slippin' Jimmy McGill. Well, Slippin' Jimmy insists I include this legal disclaimer before I go into the product keynote. I'm an engineer, not a lawyer, so I took the liberty of translating this for you into English. Here's what it means. Later in my keynote, I'm going to share with you some honest-to-God dates that we have every intention of executing to. That being said, we'd like to reserve the right to, based on your feedback, potentially change things around. So please take those dates with that grain of salt and recognize that we reserve the right to move stuff around a little bit if your feedback tells us that's the right thing to do. So let's get into it. One of the things I really like about our ownership is that they have instilled and strengthened within us something we inherited from Intuit, which was the desire to listen and to learn. And that's what we've done. We've talked to you, our customers. We've talked to the QSPs. We've met with the analysts. We've pored over the data our product generates as a result of your usage. And we've even talked to competitors. These learnings have led us to this product vision. We imagine a world where there are workplace problem solvers everywhere, and that those folks that are closest to the work are empowered to build apps every day, and to do it on a QuickBase platform that's trusted by their IT departments. Our learnings and our experience have told us that those of you that scale QuickBase throughout your organization, that empower builders to build apps and to have QuickBase be ubiquitous throughout your organization, are the ones that are getting the most value from QuickBase, and as you heard yesterday, are the companies that are growing the fastest. So, how are we going to execute to this product vision? We have a two-pronged strategy. First part of that strategy is we are doubling down on the investment we're making to the QuickBase you know and love. You heard yesterday from Rick an 84% higher level of investment in the product team this year compared to 2014. What am I going to do with all that money? Well, aside from the new hot tub in my office, no, I'm just kidding. I don't have a hot tub in my office. I'm not sure I'd want doughy engineers splashing around in there. What we're really doing is we're going to dramatically improve the QuickBase you know and love along three major themes. First, improving the lives of daily users. Second, adding more powerful builder capabilities. And third, making it easier to administer QuickBase at scale. And you're going to hear a lot more about what we're doing along each of the three of these as we go through the keynote. Second pillar of our strategy concerns Mercury, so let's talk about that. So if you were with us at EMPOWER last year in Nashville, or even 2 years ago in Chicago, you may remember us talking about Mercury. For those of you that weren't there, our idea was to essentially build a brand new version of QuickBase to replace the current one. We would have had to then move all of your apps and all of your data from that current QuickBase to the new one. After thinking about it long and hard and listening to you, we decided that really wasn't in your best interest. As much as I could have stood up here and promised it would have been a seamless migration, you all know I wouldn't have been telling the complete truth. Migrations are really hard, and forcing you to go through the process of moving your apps and data really wouldn't have been a great experience for you. Secondly, QuickBase is a really cool product that's been built up over 15 years with lots of great features. It would have taken us a really long time to reproduce that level of functionality, and that would have delayed the value we would have been able to bring to you. And third, a brand new QuickBase wouldn't have solved the fundamental problem I just talked about, which was getting QuickBase used throughout your organization by builders everywhere. So we've decided to repurpose the Mercury technology. and turn it into an environment within the current QuickBase platform. An environment that's geared for the new no-code builder, those folks that perhaps have struggled to build their first app. Congratulations, most of you have already figured out how to be really successful QuickBase builders. But there's way more people outside of this room that haven't. And so Mercury is geared for them, to help them come up to speed more quickly and get their apps built more easily. And hopefully it will help you, because it will allow you to get more builders in your organization using QuickBase. Maybe folks you haven't had time to train, or folks you haven't had time to build their apps for them. So it's going to be a new environment within the existing QuickBase platform. What do I mean by that? So I think this is really a case where a picture is worth 1,000 words. And as an engineer, I'm just physically incapable of having a presentation without an architecture diagram. So I drew one for you. Hope this helps. First thing you should notice, there is one QuickBase platform. That means one set of users, same authentication, same security, same billing. It's one QuickBase to you. Within that one platform, there's two environments. There's the environment you already know and love, and then there's going to be the new Mercury environment. That environment will have a different builder and user experience, because remember, it's geared for a new no-code builder. And the apps and the data that are created in that Mercury environment will reside within that environment. However, we're going to have an extremely high degree of interoperability between the two environments through the use of our data integration technology and our workflow automation technology. So that means you'll be able to have app ecosystems that span both environments. I strongly encourage you, all of you, to go visit the Experience Design Lab and see for yourself what Mercury is all about. You can see it and touch it and play with it. It's pretty far along in its development. But I really want to spend the lion's share of our time on this keynote talking about the enhancements we're making to the QuickBase you're using today. And so to do that, I'd like to welcome to the stage our Director of Product Management, Mark Field. Mark?
Thanks, Frank. All right, yeah, nice job. So yes, that is the same sweater that I'm wearing on stage. But yesterday, it was so Arctic in here that my only other option was a down parka. Welcome. It's nice to see you all. Having a good time seeing some familiar faces and getting to meet some new faces as well and hear about your stories of how you're using QuickBase. My name is Mark. I'm part of the product management team, and I feel very fortunate to be able to stand up here and share with you all the hard work that our engineering teams, product marketing teams, user experience teams, and product managers have been doing. Now, we're lucky to be in Boston, so many of them are actually here with us today. So if you have a chance to seek one of those folks out, please do that and tell them a story. Tell them a story about how we can make QuickBase better for you. So this morning I have two objectives. My first objective is to share all the great stuff that we've recently done in QuickBase. I've heard from many of you that we don't always do a good job telling you what and when we release stuff. So that's objective number one. Objective number two is to share with you our QuickBase roadmap. We have an exciting roadmap that extends beyond this year and into next year. But there's one very important point I want to make. Our roadmap is not rigid and it's not inflexible. In fact, it's probably not even complete. We're going to continue to listen to you and hear your requirements and your needs and incorporate it into our roadmap so it becomes our collective roadmap. So objective number two is to share our roadmap. Now, as Frank had said, when we think about our roadmap, we think about it in terms of 3 goals. First, what are the things we're doing to improve the lives of daily users? What are we doing to deliver more powerful and productive builder features? And what are we doing to make it easier to administrate QuickBase at scale? So as we go through each of these areas, I'm going to first talk about some of the things that we've recently done, and I'm going to finish by talking about the things that are on the roadmap. So let's get started by talking about the things that we've recently done and will be doing in the area of improving the lives of daily users. Yesterday, you heard that more data, more apps, and more users are putting pressure on app development platforms like QuickBase. We're watching these trends very closely, and we're continuing to invest in our platform and our infrastructure to make sure we stay ahead of the curve. Last year, we talked about some of the investments we're making in the area of high-performance reporting. For apps that have tables with hundreds of thousands of records, there was some room for us to improve performance. So our engineers found a way to take those queries and break them up into a bunch of little pieces that could then get spread across a bunch of processors and executed all at the same time. The end result is those large reports now run anywhere from 20 to 60% faster. But that's not all. We found the entire app runs 2 times faster overall. And this means your users are getting their work done faster. Now, how many of you know that we moved data centers a few weeks ago? Pretty much everybody in the crowd, because I think we must have sent you 1 million emails letting you know. Well, what you might not know is that we invested $2.2 million in brand new hardware for QuickBase. And the result of this investment has been a platform-wide performance boost ranging from 10 to 15%. Now that's improving the lives of all our users. So we've also made a whole bunch of feature improvements in this area over the last few months, including many that we heard through user voice. Everywhere in this presentation where you see the chat bubble with a smiley face, that represents a request that we heard through user voice. So we want to encourage you to continue using user voice as a feedback mechanism to us because we're watching it very closely. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these features in detail. Instead, I'm going to invite one of our product managers to the stage and have him show you how to put these features into action for your end users. Please welcome to the stage Product Manager Extraordinaire, Sam Jones. All right, Sam, let's kill it.
It is so great to be back here at Empower, and I'm so excited to share these improvements we've made for end users. I think we've done a lot to really make sure that your team will be able to spend even more time connecting with customers and providing value to them instead of trying to navigate through QuickBase and find exactly what they're looking for. So to show what we're going to be demoing today, we've built a sample sales lead app, like sales opportunities. If you've ever worked in sales, you know that when you're working with a new customer, you're trying to sell a new project, that you need to make sure that you're continually contacting them, you're staying in touch, you're continuing to discover that project with them. So we'll be going through a couple of different use cases in that little story. First thing I want to show off today is our new report list widget, right here available on the dashboard. The great thing about this report widget is, as an end user, I have access to every report on all the tables. I can easily navigate in and out of them. It's collapsible, all that great stuff. And the builder doesn't have to hard code in those links. So as I build new reports, I still have access to those. It's great, it makes it really dynamic. Makes a really great dynamic interface for our users. Let's dig into my reps active leads here. So like many of you, we track our leads with a formula field. And here we've made it a nice big color-coded one. Takes in a whole bunch of different components, calculates out the health of that lead, how well we're doing with that customer. In this case, it'll tell us whether it's a healthy lead, a lead needs a little bit of a tender love and care, or one that we've closed out. So here, we're going to narrow in on just the ones that need a little bit of help. Now previously, if I wanted to narrow in on a formula result and just see those records, I'd have to build a separate report for each formula result. Now, we've updated dynamic filters to be able to run off of formulas. So I'm going to narrow right in on the ones that are in that warning status. Great. Okay. So I'm going to go in and check out what's going on with this lead here. It looks like we've got a warning on it, so I'm going to load up that company. And it seems we haven't been able to be in touch with them because all the employees are at EMPOWER. So if you take a look at this formula, you'll see it's got lots and lots of sections. Here in Boston, we call that wicked long. But we've been able to collapse all those sections by default. And what's great is when you have a new user who's coming in, getting familiar with this interface, they don't get overwhelmed by having all your data, all your fields presented to them. They're able to go in and quickly navigate to the section they need to. In this case, we'll go check out our leads. And here we've got our lovely embedded grid report. I see we need to schedule a follow-up for after EMPOWER here. I'm going to go in, I'll pick a new date. Now, as a user, when I'm entering that, I want to make sure that the change I've made has had the effect I want. I want to make sure that the status here updates because I've said we're going to follow up with them in a week. So I'll click off of this, and now embedded grid reports and grid reports everywhere update with new formulas that recalculate or new lookup fields if you've selected a new parent record. I think that's going to be a great way to improve your productivity there. Cool. We'll save this record, and I want to show you all one more thing. Let's make sure that one of my colleagues who's new to the business is able to hear about everything that's going on here. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to create a new subscription. Now previously, when you create a subscription, you could only send it to yourself or everyone in a given role. We've changed that. We've made it so I can specify a user or users. I'm going to pick Brian here, nice guy. You might have met him out in the exhibit hall. I'm going to set up a subscription just for him so that he's getting this report every day. Great.
Awesome. So Sam, let's test my memory and my attention. You showed us 5 things: the new report widget, the ability to use a formula field as a dynamic filter, the ability to collapse forms by default, the ability for in grid edit report, formulas now calculate, and the ability to set a subscription to a specific set of users.
Precisely. Now let's take a look at those subscriptions. If we can, it worked that time. So if y'all are receiving any emailed subscriptions from QuickBase, which I imagine probably most of you are, you're familiar with this. We take the first page of that report and we embed it as an HTML web page into your email. And if you've got a small set of records, that works pretty good. If you've got a larger set of records, like we do here on this slide, where we've got 5 pages of the report, there's some places where it gets a little bit not too graceful. For example, if I want to go see the 2nd page or the 5th page, effectively that's just a link into QuickBase. So I have to have access to that QuickBase app, and the data that's shown up on the first page of this report is from when the report ran overnight. When I click into QuickBase, I'm seeing that live data that my users may have been working on. So it can give you a sort of incongruous experience. So we're making a change there. We're going to make it so that we'll take that entire report, bundle it into a PDF, and attach it to the email subscription. Laura's really happy with that one. So here's a couple great things about that. 1, you get all your records. Everything is bundled in there, all saved. 2, it becomes a heck of a lot easier to share, because I can just forward that along to someone else. And I'm capturing all that data at the same time, so I get a great snapshot of the reports that meet the requirements of that query. Got another nice little touch on this. Not only are we doing PDF, we're also doing CSV. So if you need to import into another platform like Tableau, you're all set. I love how much everybody loves CSV. I really do too. It's great. Cool. OK. We've also got some great things that we're doing with forms. We really want to double down on making sure that the folks who are on the front lines doing that data entry are able to be as productive as possible. So first off, we're introducing something called Save and Continue. What this does is it will save the data you've entered so far in your form, but leave the user right in that place, still in edit mode, which is great. So if you've got a really long form, you want to make sure you're capturing it as you're going, or if you're working through a form and somebody comes and interrupts you, maybe it's time for lunch, something like that, you can make sure that that data is all saved, any actions that need to be fired or fired properly. If you need a record ID for an automation or anything like that, all of that is taken care of. For improvement number 2 that's coming soon, faster load times. So right now, when you load a form, we load all the embedded reports before we display anything. And if you've got a lot of embedded reports on one of those big, complex forms, it can take a while for it to load. So now we'll be dynamically loading those reports as you scroll through the form, which will make it so much faster and mean that your team can get right to work with those important fields up at the top of the form, like so. And then finally, my personal favorite, tabs. So like I was saying earlier, when you have a new user coming into a QuickBase app, one of the most important things is that they can understand what the data is that they're looking at. We don't want them to be confused. Tabs give you a really easy way to organize that, a really easy way to make sure that the first thing they see on here is a simplified, most important set of fields with your detail fields spread out over other tabs. And I think that's going to be a really great thing. And as you can see, it was called out by user voice as well. So we know you're all going to love it.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, Sam. What do you guys think? So now let's start to talk about the second goal on our roadmap, which is the things we're doing and will be doing to deliver more powerful builder features. Yesterday, we launched QuickBase University. And there's 2 parts to QuickBase University. There's the training piece, and then there's the on-demand e-learning piece. Now, the e-learning piece is actually part of your QuickBase subscription, and it'll be available directly from the product. So now, from your My Apps page, you're going to have access to over 25 different courses in 5 different areas. So that's a huge investment in helping builders build better apps. Now, when I think about some of the recent improvements that we've made for builders, I group them into 3 categories: control and confidence, platform automation, and data integration. When it comes to control and confidence, there's 2 improvements that we want to point out to you. The first is we've separated the permissions for building an app from the permissions for sharing an app. And what this means is app managers now have complete control over who can share their app with other users. And they have confidence that no matter what builder they ask to help them with their app, that builder won't inadvertently share the app. The second thing we've done is we've added a way for builders to test an app as a specific user. We know that testing, troubleshooting, and building an app with lots of roles and permissions can be challenging because you can't see the same data that any individual end user would. Now, with this ability to test as a specific end user, you're going to be able to test an app to looking at the exact same data set as a specific end user would. In the area of platform automation, last fall, we introduced a capability called QuickBase Webhooks. How many of you have created a webhook? Well, for those of you who might not know what webhooks are, let me take a moment and explain. Webhooks are an automation feature in QuickBase, and they trigger when something interesting happens in your app. And when they trigger, they can take some data from QuickBase and send it somewhere else. So let's take Sam's lead tracking app as an example. Let's say somebody comes into that lead tracking app and closes a lead. That could trigger a webhook that pulls some information from the lead and does something with it. Typically, it calls some web API, but it could also call a QuickBase API and create a new record in some other table or some other app and populate that record with the data from the lead. Now, this has been one of the most rapidly adopted features that we've released in quite some time. And because of that, we've had the opportunity to hear from you all kinds of ways that we can make it better. And we have. We've made it easier to construct a webhook, and we've made it easier to test and troubleshoot a webhook. Now, when we step back and take a look at the way you're using webhooks, we learned that the vast majority of you are using webhooks to automate tasks within QuickBase. And those of you who have used webhooks knows that it's really intended for our API-savvy builders. But we want to make automating within QuickBase accessible to everybody, regardless of technical skill. So what we've done is built a new feature on top of webhooks called QuickBase Actions. And QuickBase Actions makes it easy for anybody who knows how to configure an email notification to automate some specific tasks in QuickBase. So Sam, do you want to show us QuickBase Actions in action?
Boy, do I ever, Mark. So more than anything in the 3.5 years that I've been here at QuickBase, QuickBase Actions delivers on that promise that anyone can help their team be more productive. I love how easy to use we've made this product and how easy it is to discover the complexity and power that you can get into. So for our demo here, there we go. We're going to go back to that leads app, and we're going to create a QuickBase action that brings our leads over to a project. So once we've finished out that lead, once we've come to an agreement with the customer, the sales rep needs to transfer that information over to the project fulfillment or the customer success team. So previously, they'd have to re-enter that data manually, or you'd have to use a script fired off by a webhook or something like that. Now, we're going to build a QuickBase action that'll automatically convert that lead over to a project. That's not all, though. Those leads also have a whole bunch of activities that we're using to track things that need to go along with them. And we want to make sure those activities stay up to date with the status of those leads. So we're also creating a QuickBase action to make sure those activities stay up to date.
So let me get this straight. You're going to show us creating 2 QuickBase actions.
Correct.
Awesome.
OK. So I'm going to go right up here to Sections, or Settings. And we'll scroll down. We've got QuickBase Actions right here. I've already started building one of them, so I can just quickly show you around how it works. Now, if you've ever built an email notification or a webhook, you're very familiar with this part of the interface. You can set up the criteria for when the QuickBase action should fire. In this case, we're using that formula status field that we mentioned earlier, and we're having it only fire when the status is equal to 1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a record over in the same app. Now, I can choose any app that I have access to, and we automatically narrow down to just the tables within that app. So it's really easy to find what you're looking for. So I've already set up one action. We're going to copy the value from the status field here into the status field over on my project. Let's add another one and give a good name to that project. So here, instead of copying, we're going to write that value. And I'm going to fill in 2 fields. First off, we're going to grab the name of the lead, and we're going to say that it's for a contact. One of the great things here, you don't even have to use QuickBase formula language to build this. I'm just writing in plain text with my normal spaces. Don't have to worry about any encoding errors here. And QuickBase Actions will automatically match the type of data that you're bringing over to the fields which can receive that. So you don't have to go through that huge list of fields to find out that it doesn't work. So I've set up one here that's going to write a new name for that project. Great. So now let's set up one more action here. we're going to say that when a lead is modified, instead of adding a record, we want to edit some related records. So I'll select my connection to my activities down there, and we're going to copy the value from that status field into the status field on the activities. Now, previously, if you wanted to make sure that each of your child records both had a status that could be overridden by the parent, but could also be set at its own level, I'd have to create a lookup field, an override field, and then a formula field to resolve the two of them for reporting purposes. I see one guy nodding and everyone else looking slightly confused by that part. Yeah, so that's why we did this. So now it becomes normal data that anyone can edit, but it's automatically updated when I change that parent lead.
So Sam, let me make sure I'm with you. You created two actions.
Yes.
One that takes a lead, and when it closes, creates a new project, and when that lead closes, the second action closes all its children activities.
Exactly.
All right.
Cool. So we've got a lead here that needs a little bit of tender love and care. We're trying to sell some giant chevrons, if anybody knows somebody. And we're going to go through and make a quick edit to it. So I've got some activities tied on here, and we'll add just a close date. There we go. So you can see the status field has updated to 1. So when I save it, we'll get a nice update for that. So I can pull up my activities down here, and you'll see, oh, didn't have that field there, that our schedule close field updated as well. And over here in our projects table, we created that project, Giant Chevrons, lightly used, for Christine Gomez.
Great. Awesome. So quick-base actions and webhooks are awesome if the tasks you want to automate are simple tasks. But if you need to automate something a little more complex, typically you're going to have to write an API program or leverage an integration platform. Last year, we introduced our partnership with Workato for more sophisticated integrations and automations. And we partnered with Workato because they share the same no-code philosophy as we do at QuickBase, and they're an enterprise-class platform that we feel comfortable recommending to you. Now, many of you are already using Workato in your production QuickBase apps today. Even us at QuickBase. In fact, we're using it in 3 different areas. Our sales ops team is using Workato to automate the calculation of complex commissions for their compensation tracking app. Our biz ops team is using Workato to connect QuickBase and Marketo. And our finance team has just started a project that uses Workato to exchange financial information between QuickBase and NetSuite. Now, one of the most interesting stories that I've heard, though, has been from one of our partners, Vailsun. They have a client who's in the logistics solution and courier services business. And I'll admit, I had to practice that 100 times to be able to get it out clearly. So this client is using QuickBase and Workato to automate an HR onboarding and compliance process that spans a bunch of different systems. In the beginning of the system, it collects a whole bunch of data from applicants using a system called NAC. And at another point in the process, it reaches out to Proforma, a service that does background checks. And then if the applicant makes it through the process, it uses Adobe eSign to put an electronic signature on the contract. Now, Workato coordinates all these systems, but what's really beneficial to the client is the entire process is tracked, managed, monitored, and measured all in QuickBase. Now, Workato continues to make lots of improvements to both our integration and their platform. They've recently added native webhook support to the QuickBase integration, so you no longer have to go to QuickBase to configure the webhook. When you're working in Workato, Workato will set and configure the webhook for you. They've also added a whole bunch of new connectors to their platform to things like Microsoft Dynamics, Magento, and Oracle. And they're also adding enterprise features like the ability for teams of builders to work together on integrations. Now, Workato isn't the only integration feature that's been delivering value to you. QuickBase Sync adoption has continued to grow. For those of you that don't know what QuickBase Sync is, it's a native integration technology in QuickBase that allows you to reach out to another QuickBase app or a system like Salesforce and replicate that data into your QuickBase app. Last year, Sync was processing about 15,000 table replications every day. Today, it's processing over 30,000 table replications each day. And it's not only doing more, it's doing it faster. We found ways to optimize Sync so that these table replications take half the time. So this means fresh data getting into your apps faster. We've made a lot of improvements to Sync recently, but I think the two noteworthy improvements to call out are support for two new data sources. In the April release, we launched support for secure file servers. And what this means is for those of you that aren't comfortable putting your data in Box, Dropbox, or Google Drive, you can now use QuickBase Sync for CSV to connect to a secure file server that you own or control to pick up data to bring into QuickBase. Excuse me. And in the June release, I clicked that a little bit too early. In the June release, we're releasing support, general availability support for Microsoft Exchange. And what this means is you'll be able to use QuickBase Sync to reach into Microsoft Exchange and replicate emails into QuickBase that you can then relate to your customers, your tickets, and other kinds of service requests. So what we've been talking about for the last few minutes has really been all the things that we've done recently for builders. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the things that we have in the roadmap for builders. First, we have a bunch of new data management capabilities on the horizon. We know that many of you are exporting data from QuickBase on a regular basis, either to import into a database warehousing system for reporting purposes or to integrate with a third-party system. Well, we want to make this easier for you by giving you a way within QuickBase to actually schedule this export. So a set of records could be exported from QuickBase on a regular basis into a CSV file and placed on a secure file server. And when you think about this, this works really well with QuickBase Sync for CSV, because with Sync for CSV, you're able to pick up data and import it into QuickBase, where you'll process it, and when this capability is available, you'll be able to complete the round trip by exporting the data out and putting it on a secure file server where it can be picked up by another process. We also know that many of you are using table-to-table imports to create snapshots of your data, either for historical purposes or for reporting purposes. And this is another thing that we want to make easier for you by giving you a way within QuickBase to automate that on a schedule. This way, you don't have to do it manually or rely on any external scripts to do it. And finally, we're going to build on these two capabilities to provide a way to auto-archive records from a QuickBase table into a CSV file. This will help app managers with compliance requirements and give you some tools within QuickBase to better manage table sizes. So that's what we have on the horizon in the area of data management. Sam, do you want to tell us about some of the other builder features that are on the way?
Sure. Two big themes here. Number one, more control over your mobile experience. And then number two, ways to build faster. So for the mobile experience, we're going to be giving you the ability to set mobile-specific forms. So if you have So if you've got team members out on the job site working from a phone or a tablet, you can make sure they're served up a special version of the form, probably trimmed down to just the fields that they'll need in that context. Additionally, we're also giving you the ability to set an app-wide default either to mobile or full site. So if you need that full site experience on your tablet or on your reasonably large phone, you can make sure you always get it in that app. Now, if you went to my session last year, you know how much I love formulas. So this one is very close to my heart. We're doing a new field picker, and that's going to show up in our formula builder. You already saw it a little bit in actions when I was pulling up those fields. You're able to go in, type ahead, and find the field names that match that. And when you're dealing with hundreds of fields, as we are in many cases, this is so great. You don't have to keep scrolling up and down trying to find that exact one you're looking for that's somewhere in the middle. Another great enhancement we're doing pretty soon, a new kind of summary field that can bring up text and user data. So right now, if you want to do something like this, you have to build what's called a reverse relationship, and that's about as complicated as it sounds. So this will be a really great thing. It'll bring much more complex data sets to so many more builders and make it so much easier to access this kind of data. In this case, we've got a little slide here where we're pulling up the agent who logged the most recent activity onto the parent record.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Hey, so I can't tell you how good it makes us feel to hear the applause for some of the work that we've been doing, so thank you. Now, let's move on to the third goal in our roadmap, which is making it easier to administer QuickBase at scale. So our administration vision for QuickBase is very simple. We envision that QuickBase will be trusted by IT departments everywhere so that you as a business don't have to operate in the shadows if you don't want to. And we also envision that QuickBase will have a range of right-sized controls that allow you as a business to remain flexible enough to be agile, but you as an enterprise to have the control you need to be compliant. Now, we know we're in the early stages of our journey along the way to this vision, but we've been listening very closely to all the feedback that you've been giving us. And one of the things that's absolutely clear is that of all the things that we should be doing in this area, making it easier to manage groups and users is where we should start. So I think you'll see that we're spending some energy addressing those issues. So let's take a look at a few recent administration improvements. For app managers, you can now see how a user is granted access to your app. Previously, if a user was granted access to your app through a group, you wouldn't be able to see that user in your manage users page. But now you can see the individuals as well as how they were invited to your group and how they were invited to your app and when they were invited to your app. The second thing we've done is we've added a couple of administration features. First, we've given you the ability to export group members, including all the members of your subgroup, so that can use that list to reconcile against other systems for compliance purposes. And you can now see on the groups page which apps that this group can access. Now, when it comes, the third thing we did, for those of you who have more stringent authentication requirements, we've implemented two-step authentication. And this simply means that you need more than a username and password to log into QuickBase. You need a second form of identification, which is typically a code that we send to you in email. Now, we've got two powerful improvements on our roadmap in this area. We know that many of you have lots of apps that are driving value in your business, and you've told us that you need better visibility and control over these apps and the data in these apps. It's no longer feasible or realistic for you to add an admin group to every app on the platform. So we're going to solve this problem by introducing a super user administration capability. When this capability is enabled, you can assign one of your account admins to be a super user. And this super user is added to every app as a second app manager. But you can't change the permissions for a super user, and you can't remove the super user from your app. So now, with the super user feature, you now have central control over all the apps and the data on your platform, if that's what you wish. Now, the second thing that's coming, I think, is pretty exciting as well. I want to announce that what we're doing is redesigning the user interface for our platform administration experience. And we're doing this starting with users. So we're going to make it much easier for you to get all the information you need about your users in a central spot. So Sam, do you want to show us a little bit about this?
Oh, heck yes. So if you are primarily a QuickBase builder, you may not be familiar with all of the tabs of the administration console, which should be showing. There we go. Awesome. So you may not be familiar with this screen and how many places you have to go to really get a deep understanding of what the users in your account can do. We have this Users with Access tab, which will give me a list of all my users, assuming that I have a small enough number of them. When you get in tens of thousands, it gets a little rocky. We have a Permissions tab where you control who has access. We've got apps and groups. And all of this is spread across a whole bunch of different places. And you sort of have to know all those places to go and look. We're trying to fix this with the new QuickBase administration. So we're bringing modern web technology to this so we can handle huge sets of data. We have all your users here on the page. And you're able to scroll across to see all the important information about them. And we can search in real time. So really easy to find the people you're looking for. And that's not all. We know how important filtering is. So I can go in here. I can track down who's an app manager, but is still and is inactive. Hey, everybody's paying attention this week. That's great. And I can pull that out easily. And we also have spotlighted some really important information up here along the top, giving you counts of how many users fall into each of these places. We want to make sure that this is a really easy process as your company grows and scales and as QuickBase use grows and scales within your company. One last thing before we close out this demo. If you look over here on the left, you'll see a big, long list. That's our to-do list. We want to make sure that we bring all of these functions into this new interface, giving you the power to easily administer your entire QuickBase account from here. And if you want to take part in this, we're starting an early access program for it pretty soon. Go ahead and visit the QuickBase kiosk after this keynote.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. So I just want to emphasize that last point one more time. This is not a mock-up that you're seeing. This is real code that we're ready to put in your hands in a few weeks. So if this is interesting to you, see Sybil at the QuickBase kiosk, and she'll get you all hooked up. So I had two objectives this morning. Sam and I had two objectives this morning. One, share with you all the great things that we've been doing to improve QuickBase recently. And the second was to share with you more details about what we have on our roadmap. What I'd like to do now is invite Frank back up to tell you about exactly what the delivery timeline for our roadmap is. So thank you very much for your attention, and Frank will be here to tell you about the delivery of this roadmap.
Nicely done.
Mark, clicker. Don't want to forget this. So, what'd you think? Yeah? Cool. Awesome. I told you we've been busy in the QuickBase engine room, and we're going to be busy for the rest of the year and into 2018. If you remember at the beginning of my talk, I said there'd be dates. So now let's talk about dates. First, let me explain what I mean by dates. These aren't the, gee, I hope if everything works out perfectly and there's no bugs, it'll come out in this time frame. Everything you're going to see has been vetted by the teams that are doing the work, and they have high confidence they can execute to that. That being said, I do need to remind you of Attorney Saul Goodman. Because we listen to your feedback, we may choose to put some things higher in priority and move stuff around. So we'll let you know about that. So let's start with the first roadmap, which is improving the lives of daily users. So starting in July, get the first set of functionality out, save and continue, some mobile enhancements. Coming out in September, a feature I know you're going to love, the tabbed forms. Yep. And then near the end of the year, we're going to roll out some performance improvements, as well as more PDF support. Please, feel free to take pictures. I'd like photographic evidence so you can hold me accountable. Let's talk about the roadmap for more powerful builder features. You can see there's a lot of things on this roadmap, and we plan to have new functionality coming out almost every month. And then in the first half of 2018, we'll have the general availability for the Mercury environment I talked about earlier. And finally, the roadmap for making it easier to administer QuickBase at scale. As Sam mentioned, the early access for that centralized user management facility you just saw is starting next month. And then we plan to extend its functionality with new stuff coming out in August and in November. And then in December will be the general availability release of the complete centralized user management facility. And then the super user functionality that Mark and Sam talked about, we have scheduled for the first half of 2018. So I think I know what you're thinking about, which is, well, this is all well and good, Frank, but my favorite feature isn't up there. Or what about audit trails? We've been telling you forever we need audit trails. Where is it? So let me be clear. What you're seeing on these roadmaps are what we're comfortable committing to now. That doesn't mean that's all we plan to deliver. So we purposely left time in the schedule for us to get your feedback and hopefully squeeze a few more things in there. So please, we'd really like your feedback. How can you get it to us? There's a few avenues. So first, please come visit us at the QuickBase Lounge. All of the smiling faces you see there are product managers who would be happy to hear what's important to you. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, drop by the XD Studio where you can see and feel and touch the Mercury interface, as well as some of the other things you have seen today. And then finally, I'd love to call your attention to some roadmap sessions that are coming up later this morning and this afternoon. These are meant not only for us to convey information to you, but for you to convey information to us. So please, I hope you'll avail yourselves of those opportunities. So before I head back to the QuickBase engine room, I just wanted to thank you for your time and tell you to enjoy the rest of Empower. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
All right, let's have another round of applause for our product team, huh? That's awesome. Some really, really cool stuff coming. And I hope that the message you heard was that everything that we're doing, the product innovations, some of the announcements Rick made yesterday with our customer success team and our online training initiatives, that this is all you driving us, right? Everything in our world revolves around you. Frank just mentioned some great opportunities to connect with our product team, volunteer for beta programs. I think that's awesome. You should do that. You should also, if you haven't done so already, visit our social center. take our QuickBase 2017 survey, sign up for QuickBase Heroes. This is why we push these things so much, because we really want to engage with you all year long so that we can keep delivering the innovations that matter most to you. So this is kind of it for the main stage at Empower. So we wanted to close out this portion of our event with just an enormous thank you. We already showed a couple of videos featuring our customers, but I just want to leave you with one final video just as our tribute to you, just to say thanks. So have a great day, everybody.
You are movers, marketers, scientists, solar installers, researchers, manufacturers. You are anyone, anywhere who has a job to get done.
You are the thinkers, the planners, the tinkerers, the makers, the builders, the experts. You are fearless and nimble, and you know there's a better way.
You are helping your team, driving change, building new businesses, creating your next career. You see the potential and you make it happen.
We are QuickBase.
And we want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For letting us help you change your world and the future of your business.